So I want to explain a little bit about conditioning for cyclists specifically. If you ask somebody to do an hour's worth of stretching, chances are they'll do none. So I would normally request people to do 2 minutes of stretching, and you'd be surprised how much you can get done within just 2 minutes. Rather than calling it stretching and foam rolling, we refer to it as conditioning. You know, you don't need to be a ballerina to ride a bicycle. You don't need to be that stretchy. We're aiming to manipulate the muscles in such a way that we'll clear out the lactate from the muscles. You're getting fresh blood in there, you're ironing out all the little knots and tears in the muscle fibers, and put the muscles in a good condition to recover. They'll recover more quickly, they'll recover with better training effect, and you'll be less likely to cause instability in the joints, particularly the knee and the hip, which can cause problems for cyclists. You know, people don't have a lot of time spare to do these things, so if you can only do one stretch, do this one. It's a basic squat. It's particularly good at stretching out the hips. You know, you really need to just hold it for 45 seconds. So just relax down, bend the hips and the knees as much as possible. Rotate your feet so that they're comfortable for your hips. Try and keep your heels on the ground. If you can't keep your heels on the ground, just put something underneath them or just grab hold of something in front to stop you falling backwards. Next one, if you feel you've got 2 minutes spare, we can go into something in a little bit more detail. So now we're focusing on hamstrings and glutes. So for either of these muscles, you can either stretch or foam roll. With the hamstrings, the most basic hamstring stretch, lie on your back, ensuring that your pelvis is flat on the ground, grab hold of your foot and straighten your leg. You might not be able to reach your foot depending on your flexibility, in which case use a strap or a sock, something to extend your reach so that you can stay relaxed. Pretty much everywhere in your body, particularly in the hamstrings, the only thing exerting any pressure is your hands gripping hold of your strap. The way to use a foam roller is you're applying your body weight to your muscle basically. So it's essentially like a self-massage. So you can use a foam roller that's quite wide and soft, or you can use something that's much smaller and firmer. The firmer one tends to kind of dig in the muscle. There's quite a lot of meat on the back of your thigh. So don't be shy with that. So you would rest that on the back of your thigh, above the knee, support your weight on your arms, roll back and forth. That's basically it, simple as that. So second only to the hamstrings in terms of importance for cycling is probably the glutes. You know, the conditions of modern life result in people depending much more on their hamstrings for hip extension than they do on their glutes. So if you're conditioning your glutes, they're going to function better. You're more likely to be able to use them. And obviously, you know, it's the biggest muscle you got, so it's definitely worth getting it involved in any athletic activity. You can do a glute stretch, so this looks a little bit like a lunge. Find a comfortable position forward to place your foot, let your hips drop down towards the ground. Keep your body leaned forwards on this one. You'll feel it round the side of the hip. Hold that for 30-45 seconds. Keep it relaxed. You know, better to have a very gentle stretch than to have something very firm. We don't need any bouncing on the stretches. That's not what we're trying to achieve. Again, with the glutes, rolling them out is sometimes a better option. So in order to do this, you sit on the foam roller. What you're aiming to do is have your sit bone in front of your glutes, so that your glutes are pushed towards the rear. And then you slide down or roll down the foam roller until the glutes have been pushed all the way up to the crest of your pelvis at the rear. Again, you know, repeat that motion a couple of times. Quads and hip flexors. You can roll out your quads, perhaps with you know, by lying on your front or with a kind of rolling pin style of device. Honestly, stretching is fine for the quads. Grasp the heel behind the hips, keep the knees together, a very gentle stretch. Again, if you need to extend your reach, wrap a sock around your ankle or a strap, something like that, and keep the knees together. You can do this one lying down or standing up. For stretching out the hip flexors, you can't get to the hip flexors. The hip flexors are in the back of your abdominal cavity, attached to your lower vertebrae. It's very difficult. You can't really roll them out, so you've got to stretch them. So again, this is a lunge like with a glute stretch, except for this one, your body is in a more upright position. Now you'll feel it on the hip where the foot is in the reverse position, stretching through the front of the hip slightly. Calves don't take it that bad for the purposes of cycling compared to, say, running. Again, we're applying the foam roller to the calves. It does hurt, this one, to be honest, so best to use a broad, soft foam roller. And remember, if it hurts, that's an indication that you need to do it. So it stops hurting after a while, after after the muscles have loosened up somewhat. A very straightforward rotation on the lower back muscle. Again, exactly how you position yourself depends upon your current level of flexibility. The main thing to bear in mind with twisting in the lower back is to keep the spine straight. So don't flex and then twist. Keep it nice and upright. Hold the stretch for, again, 30 seconds. Go easy. Obviously do it on both sides as well, so you're rotating left and right side.